I was watering my garden when my daughter-in-law's car pulled up. She stormed over and ripped the hose from my hands, spraying me. "This is my house now, you senile old bat. I'm selling it and you can't stop me." She waved papers in my face. My son sat in the car looking at his phone. I was soaking wet, standing in my own garden. I didn't say anything. I just walked inside and made one phone call. The next morning, a detective arrived at their door. Those papers she waved were forged property deeds, and I'd just reported her for elder fraud and identity theft. Before we continue, this fictionalized case study is based on documented property deed fraud cases targeting elderly homeowners. According to the National Council on Aging, property deed fraud is one of the fastest growing forms of elder financial abuse, with family members responsible for 60% of cases. This examines warning signs of real estate theft schemes, and how to protect your property from fraudulent transfers. Now let me tell my story. I was watering my roses on a Saturday morning when Sienna's black BMW came flying into my driveway. The car barely stopped before she jumped out, slamming the door so hard the whole vehicle shook. My son Devon stayed in the passenger seat, head down, staring at his phone like it was the most interesting thing in the world. I was 70 yards away in my garden, hose in hand, wearing my old gardening clothes and rubber boots. The water arced gently over my rose bushes, the ones my late husband Gerald had planted 25 years ago when we'd first bought this house. Sienna stormed across the lawn toward me. She was dressed like she was going to a business meeting. Designer dress, high heels that sank into my grass with every angry step, oversized sunglasses pushed up on her head. "Sienna?" I called out, confused. "What's wrong?" She didn't answer, just kept coming. When she got within arm's reach, she grabbed the hose right out of my hands and yanked it hard. Water sprayed everywhere, soaking both of us. "This is my house now, you senile old bat." I stood there dripping, completely stunned. "What are you talking about? I'm selling it, and you can't stop me." She waved a thick stack of papers in my face, so close I couldn't even focus on what they said. Legal documents of some kind, covered in official-looking seals and signatures. "You signed this house over to Devon last month. You just don't remember because you're losing your mind. I never signed anything. That's my house." "Was your house?" Sienna was screaming now, her face twisted with rage. "It's ours now, and we're selling it. You have 2 weeks to pack your shit and get out." "Get out? This is my home. I've lived here for 30 years. Should have thought about that before you signed it over. Now move out or I'll have the sheriff forcibly remove you." Water was still spraying from the hose she'd dropped on the ground, soaking into the grass. I looked past her to the BMW where Devon sat motionless. "Devon," I called out, "are you going to let her talk to me like this?" He finally got out of the car, but he wouldn't look at me, kept his eyes on the ground like a child being scolded. "Mom, you signed the papers." "Sienna's right. The house is in my name now. I never signed anything." Devon's voice was quiet, defeated. "The deed transfer went through 3 weeks ago. It's recorded with the county. It's legal. I don't care what's recorded. I didn't sign it." Sienna laughed. A harsh, cruel sound. "That's what senile people always say. I don't remember. I didn't do that." "Well, too bad, Margaret. It's done. It's legal, and we're selling this place for $380,000 to cover our debts. Start packing. You've got 14 days. She grabbed Devon's arm and pulled him back toward the car. He went willingly, still not looking at me. I stood there in my garden soaking wet from the hose, water pooling around my boots. I watched them drive away. Sienna's taillights disappearing down my street, my house, my home for 30 years. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I didn't stand there wondering what to do. I turned off the hose, walked inside, changed into dry clothes and picked up my phone. I made one call. Raymond Pierce had been my attorney for 15 years. He'd handled my will when Gerald died, helped me with some property tax issues, advised me on estate planning. He answered on the second ring. "Raymond, it's Margaret Foster. My daughter-in-law just told me I signed my house over to my son Devon. She says the deed transfer is recorded with the county. I never signed anything. What's going on?" I heard typing on the other end. Raymond was already looking it up. "Let me check the property records. Hold on." More typing. Then silence. "Margaret." His voice was different now. "Serious? There's a deed transfer recorded 3 weeks ago. Your house at 4782 Magnolia Drive was transferred from your name to Devon Foster's name." My stomach dropped. "That's impossible. I never signed anything." The document shows your signature. It was notarized on August 15th and filed with the Fulton County Clerk on August 17th. Raymond, I'm telling you, I did not sign that document. I would never give away my house. This is the only thing I have left from Gerald. I'm not giving it to anyone while I'm still alive. Pause. Then someone forged your signature. That's a felony. What do I do? Come to my office right now. This is Saturday, but I'll meet you there. Bring your driver's license, passport, any identification you have. We need to move fast before they try to sell the property. I grabbed my purse and drove straight to Raymond's office downtown. Raymond's law office was in a historic building with tall ceilings and dark wood everywhere. He was waiting for me in the lobby, already in work mode despite it being the weekend. Come on back. We went to his office and he pulled up the deed transfer document on his computer, turning the screen so I could see it. There it was. A legal document transferring 4782 Magnolia Drive from Margaret Louise Foster to Devon Marcus Foster. Effective date August 15, 2024. Consideration, love and affection and $10. And, at the bottom, a signature that was supposed to be mine. I leaned closer, studying it. That's not my signature. Raymond looked at it carefully. It's close. Someone tried to copy your signature style. Look at the M and Margaret. I always loop it twice. This only loops once. And the F in Foster, I make it with one continuous stroke. This person lifted the pen between the upstroke and the cross stroke. Raymond was taking notes. You're right. The differences are subtle, but they're there. It was notarized, I pointed out. How does someone forge a signature on a notarized document? Either the notary was in on the fraud, or someone went to the notary pretending to be you with fake identification. He scrolled to the notary information. Notary is Lisa Chen, commission number 4829, works at a UPS store on Peachtree Street. We need to talk to her and find out who came in to get this notarized. I was still staring at the forged signature. Sienna told me I have 2 weeks to move out. She can't force you out. This deed transfer is fraudulent. But we need to prove that quickly. And we need to make sure they don't try to sell the house before we can get this reversed. Can they sell it? If the fraudulent deed shows Devon as the legal owner, yes. They can list it, accept offers, and potentially close a sale before we stop them. That's why we need to act immediately. What's first? First, we file a police report. This is identity theft and forgery. Then we get a forensic document examiner to analyze the signature and provide an official opinion that it's forged. Then we file an emergency motion with the court to void the deed transfer and restore your ownership. He was already drafting an email to a forensic examiner he'd worked with before. Margaret, one more question. Has Sienna been asking about your house? About your plans for it? I thought back over the past year. Yes. Constantly. She's been telling me I should downsize. That this house is too big for one person. That I should sell it and move into a condo or a senior apartment. How often? Every time I see her, which is maybe once a month. She'll walk through the house and say things like, "This is so much space for just you." Or "Wouldn't you be happier somewhere smaller where you don't have to maintain a yard?" She's always asking what the house is worth. I told her about $380,000 based on recent sales in the neighborhood. She got very interested in that number. Raymond was writing everything down. She's been planning this, researching the value, figuring out how much money she'd get if she could sell it. Why would she do this? Devon has a good job. Let me look into their finances. If they're in debt, that might explain the motive. We went directly from Raymond's office to the Atlanta Police Department. It was Saturday afternoon and the station was busy. People reporting stolen cars, filing complaints, dealing with weekend emergencies. We waited 45 minutes before we could see someone. Finally, a detective came out to meet us. Marcus Webb, Financial Crimes Unit. He was a black man in his early 50s with gray at his temples, and tired eyes that suggested he'd seen too many families destroy each other over money. We followed him to a small interview room. Raymond explained the situation while Detective Webb took notes. "So your daughter-in-law showed up this morning claiming she owns your house, based on a deed transfer you say you never signed?" "That's correct. I never signed anything, never agreed to transfer my property. And the deed is recorded with the county?" "Yes," Raymond said. "Filed 3 weeks ago, but the signature is forged." Detective Webb pulled up the deed on his computer. "Mrs. Foster, is this your signature?" He turned the screen toward me. I looked at it again, even though I'd already studied it in Raymond's office. "No, it's similar. But it's not mine. The letter formation is wrong in several places." We'll need a forensic document examiner to confirm that officially. But I believe you. He started asking more questions. Who would have had access to your personal information? Social security number, date of birth, that kind of thing. My son Devon knows all that. And his wife Sienna has been to my house many times over the years. She could have seen documents. Has she ever asked you to sign anything? I thought about it. About 6 months ago she brought over some papers and said it was a power of attorney form. Said I should have one in case I ever got sick and needed someone to make medical decisions. I refused to sign it. Told her I wasn't ready for that yet. Detective Webb's eyebrows went up. She tried to get power of attorney over you? Yes. But I said no. I'm only 67 and I'm in perfect health. I don't need anyone making decisions for me. And after you refused to sign the power of attorney, she stopped asking. Yes? She seemed angry about it, but she didn't bring it up again. So when she couldn't get legitimate legal control, she went the forgery route instead. He pulled up information about the notary. Lisa Chen, works at UPS store Shin 4429 on Peachtree. We'll need to interview her and find out who came in to get this document notarized. There are two possibilities. Either Ms. Chen is complicit in the fraud and knowingly notarized a forged signature, or someone came in with fake identification pretending to be you, and Ms. Chen didn't catch it. What happens now? I asked. I'm opening an investigation for identity theft, forgery and elder financial abuse. I'll interview the notary, get the handwriting analysis and track down who's responsible. And in the meantime, don't sign anything, don't leave your house if you can help it. Don't give them any opportunity to claim you abandoned the property, and work with your attorney to get that fraudulent deed voided as fast as possible. 2 days later I sat in the office of Dr. Patricia Hughes, a forensic document examiner Raymond had hired. Dr. Hughes was a black woman in her late 40s who'd testified as an expert witness in hundreds of cases. Her office was filled with magnifying equipment, specialized cameras and stacks of documents in various stages of analysis. She'd spent the past 2 days examining the deed transfer signature and comparing it to my authentic signatures from various documents. My will, old bank records, the original deed when Gerald and I bought the house 30 years ago. Now she was showing me her findings. Mrs. Foster, this signature on the deed transfer is definitely not yours. She pulled up side-by-side images on her computer, my real signature on the left, the forged one on the right. Look at the capital M in Margaret. Your authentic signature has a distinctive double loop here. She pointed. The forged signature has a single loop. The forger tried to copy your style but didn't capture this detail. The F in Foster shows a different pattern. Your authentic signature creates the F in one continuous motion. Up, across, down. The forged signature shows hesitation marks here and here, indicating the forger lifted the pen and restarted the stroke. Additionally, the pressure pattern is inconsistent. When you sign your name naturally, you apply varying pressure, lighter on the upstrokes, heavier on the downstrokes. This forged signature has uniform pressure throughout, suggesting someone was carefully drawing your signature rather than writing it naturally. She showed me more comparisons, pointing out details I'd never noticed about my own signature. My professional opinion, which I'll provide in a written report, is that the signature on this deed transfer was not written by Margaret Foster. This is a forgery. Can you tell who forged it? I can't determine the identity of the forger just from the signature, but I can tell you this was done by someone who had access to examples of your signature. This isn't a random forgery. Whoever did this studied your signature carefully and attempted to replicate it. Someone close to you. Someone who'd seen you sign documents before. While Dr. Hughes was analyzing the signature, Detective Webb was conducting his own investigation. He'd gone to the UPS store to interview Lisa Chen, the notary. I wasn't there for the interview, but Raymond told me what happened based on the police report. Detective Webb had shown up at the UPS store on Monday morning. Lisa Chen was working behind the counter helping customers with shipping and printing. He'd identified himself and asked to speak with her privately. In a back office he'd asked her about the deed transfer. Miss Chen, do you remember notarizing a property deed for Margaret Foster on August 15th? Lisa had checked her records. Yes, I have a record of that notarization. Can you describe the person who came in? It was a woman. She had identification showing she was Margaret Foster. She signed the document in front of me and I notarized it. What did this woman look like? Black woman, I'd say late 60s, wearing glasses. Short gray hair. She seemed nice. Very polite. Detective Webb had pulled out a photo of me. Is this the woman you notarized? Lisa had studied the photo carefully. Then she'd shaken her head. No, that's not her. The woman I notarized was different. Are you certain? Positive. Different face. Different build. Not the same person at all. Did you check her identification carefully? I looked at it. It was a Georgia driver's license with her photo and the name Margaret Foster. Everything looked legitimate to me. So someone came in with a fake ID. I guess so. I didn't know it was fake. It looked real. Detective Webb had then shown her another photo. Have you ever seen this woman before? It was a photo of Sienna. Lisa's reaction had been immediate. Yes. That's her. That's the woman who came in on August 15th. You're certain? Absolutely certain. I remember her because she was very well dressed, very confident. She knew exactly what she needed. That's definitely the same woman. Armed with Lisa's identification and Dr. Hughes's forensic analysis, Detective Webb had expanded his investigation. He'd obtained warrants to look into Sienna and Devon's financial records. What he'd found explained everything. Raymond called me with the results 3 days after I'd filed the police report. Margaret. Detective Webb just briefed me on what he found. Your son and daughter-in-law are in severe financial trouble. How bad? They have $95,000 in credit card debt across 7 different cards, all maxed out. They're leasing 2 luxury vehicles, a BMW for Sienna and a Mercedes for Devon. Combined payment is $1,400 a month. Their mortgage on their house is $3,200 a month and they're currently 3 months behind. They're paying $25,000 a year for private school for their daughter. They have a country club membership they can't afford. Multiple store credit cards and collections, and Devon's salary is $75,000 a year. Sienna doesn't work? No. She hasn't had a job in 6 years, since before their daughter was born. I felt sick. So they thought they could solve their money problems by stealing my house. Exactly. Your house is worth $380,000. Fully paid off. If they could sell it, that money would pay off all their debts and give them a fresh start. But I never agreed to give them my house. I know. That's why Sienna committed fraud. She tried to get you to sign a power of attorney 6 months ago, which would have given them legal control. When you refused, she went the forgery route. Detective Webb also found internet search history from Sienna's laptop. She'd been researching how to transfer property from parent to child, avoiding probate with deed transfer, and elder care facilities in Atlanta. She's been planning this for months. Detective Webb obtained an arrest warrant for Sienna on the following charges: identity theft, forgery, elder abuse, and fraud. They arrested her at her house on a Wednesday morning. I wasn't there, but Devon called me afterward. He was crying. Mom, the police just arrested Sienna. They're saying she forged your signature, that she used fake ID. Is that true? Yes. I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know she forged anything. She told me you signed the deed transfer, that you wanted to avoid probate issues, that it was your idea. Devon, I would never give away my house while I'm still alive. You know that. I should have talked to you directly. Should have confirmed it with you. But Sienna said you were getting forgetful, that you might not remember. I'm not forgetful, Devon. I'm 67 years old and sharp as I've ever been. Your wife lied to you. Silence on the other end. Then why would she do this? Because you're $95,000 in debt and she saw my house as a solution. How do you know about our debt? The police investigated your finances. It's all documented. More silence. I could hear him crying quietly. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry I didn't question it. I trusted her. Did you know what she was planning? No, I swear. She told me you wanted to do the deed transfer, that you'd signed the papers. I didn't know she forged your signature until the detective told me. The house is in your name now, Devon. You benefited from fraud even if you didn't commit it yourself. I'll sign it back to you. Right now, today. I don't want it if it's not legal. It's not that simple. We have to go through the courts to void the fraudulent deed, and your wife is facing serious criminal charges. Sienna was released on bail within hours of her arrest. Devon had posted the $10,000 bond, though I had no idea where he'd gotten the money given their financial situation. But being out on bail didn't mean she was backing down. 2 days after her arrest, Raymond called me. Margaret, Sienna's attorney just filed a motion claiming you consented to the deed transfer verbally, even if the signature is technically forged. That's absurd. I never consented to anything. I know, but her lawyer is arguing that you had conversations with Sienna about transferring the property to avoid probate, and that you agreed to it in principle even if you don't remember signing the actual documents. There were no such conversations. I believe you, but we'll need to prove it. Do you have any emails, text messages, anything in writing where you discussed this with Sienna or Devon? No, because we never discussed it. Good. That works in our favor. If she's claiming you had these conversations, she should have some kind of documentation. The fact that she doesn't proves she's lying. Raymond filed a response to Sienna's motion, including affidavits from 3 of my friends stating that I'd never mentioned any intention to transfer my house, and that I'd specifically said multiple times I planned to keep the house until I died. The judge reviewed both motions and ruled in our favor. There's no evidence of verbal consent. The deed transfer is based on a forged signature. Motion denied. But Sienna still wasn't done. Her lawyer filed for emergency guardianship, claiming I was mentally incompetent and couldn't manage my own affairs. The petition claimed I was experiencing significant cognitive decline and unable to remember recent agreements. Raymond immediately had me undergo a comprehensive cognitive evaluation with a neuropsychologist. I sat through 3 hours of testing, memory tests, reasoning problems, current events questions, mental math, pattern recognition. The neuropsychologist, Dr. James Morrison, reviewed my results and shook his head. Mrs. Foster, you scored in the 98th percentile for your age group. Your cognitive function is excellent. You show no signs whatsoever of dementia or memory impairment. Your score was perfect on the memory tests. You have better recall than people half your age. He prepared a comprehensive report stating I was fully competent to manage my own affairs. Raymond submitted this to the court along with the motion to dismiss Sienna's guardianship petition. The judge took one look at my test scores and denied the guardianship petition without even holding a hearing. Mrs. Foster is clearly competent. Petition denied. While the legal battles were happening in civil court, the criminal case against Sienna was moving forward. 6 months after her arrest, her trial began. I sat in the courtroom every day, watching as the prosecution presented their case. The charges were serious: identity theft, forgery, elder abuse and fraud. The prosecutor was a woman named Jennifer Williams, an assistant district attorney who specialized in financial crimes. She was thorough and relentless. She presented the forged deed first, with Dr. Patricia Hughes testifying as an expert witness. Dr. Hughes explained to the jury exactly how she determined the signature was forged, using enlarged images to show the differences between my real signature and the fake one. The forger attempted to copy Mrs. Foster's signature style, but failed to replicate several key characteristics. The letter formation is inconsistent, the pressure pattern is wrong, and there are hesitation marks indicating the signature was drawn rather than written naturally. In my professional opinion, with a high degree of scientific certainty, the signature was not written by Margaret Foster. Then Lisa Chen, the notary, testified. The woman who came into my store on August 15th with a Georgia driver's license identifying her as Margaret Foster was not actually Margaret Foster. I've since seen a photo of the real Mrs. Foster and it's clearly a different person. When I was shown a photo of Sienna Foster, I immediately recognized her as the woman who came in that day. I'm certain it was her. She presented what appeared to be a valid ID with the name Margaret Foster. I checked the ID, it looked legitimate. So I notarized the signature. I had no reason to believe it was fake. The prosecutor asked, did the defendant seem nervous or uncertain? No. She was very confident, very professional. She knew exactly what she needed and what to say. She seemed like someone who'd done this before. Then Detective Webb testified about his investigation. He walked the jury through Sienna and Devon's financial records, the $95,000 in credit card debt, the late mortgage payments, the expensive lifestyle they couldn't afford. The Fosters were in severe financial distress. Mrs. Margaret Foster's house represented $380,000 in equity. That would have solved all their financial problems. When Mrs. Sienna Foster couldn't convince her mother-in-law to voluntarily transfer the property, she took matters into her own hands through fraud. He presented Sienna's internet search history. 3 months before the forged deed was filed, Mrs. Sienna Foster was researching how to transfer property from parent to child. She was looking at information about deed transfers, probate avoidance and estate planning. She was planning this fraud well in advance. Then I testified. I told the jury about Sienna showing up in my garden, ripping the hose from my hands, telling me I was senile and had to move out. I never signed that deed. I never agreed to transfer my house. That house is everything I have left from my husband. It's where we raised our son. It's where I plan to live until I die. I would never give it away, especially not to someone who calls me a senile old bat. Sienna's lawyer tried to suggest I was confused, that I had consented to the transfer and simply didn't remember, but the prosecutor brought out Dr. Morrison's cognitive evaluation. Mrs. Foster scored in the 98th percentile on comprehensive neuropsychological testing. She has excellent memory and perfect cognitive function. She's not confused about anything. Devon testified, reluctantly. He looked terrible, exhausted, defeated, ashamed. My wife told me that my mother wanted to transfer the house. She said Mom had signed the papers and that it was all arranged. I didn't question it. I should have talked to Mom directly, but I didn't. I just believed Sienna. Did you know your wife was planning to forge your mother's signature? No. I had no idea. I thought everything was legitimate. Did you know your wife obtained fake identification and went to a notary pretending to be your mother? No. Sienna told me Mom had signed the papers herself. I believed her. Do you benefit from this fraudulent deed transfer? The house is in my name. Yes. But I never wanted it this way. I've told my mother I'll sign it back to her. The prosecutor showed the jury Sienna's text messages to a friend. Margaret's house is worth almost $400,000. Once we sell it, we'll be debt-free and can finally live the life we deserve. She's old, she'll probably die in the next 10 years anyway. Why should we wait and struggle when that money could solve our problems now? The jury looked disgusted. Finally, Sienna took the stand in her own defense. It was a disaster. Her lawyer had advised her not to testify, but she'd insisted. She claimed I had verbally agreed to transfer the house, that I'd told her many times I wanted Devon to have it. Margaret said she was tired of maintaining the house, that it was too much work, that she wanted Devon to have it now so she could see him enjoy it. The prosecutor cross-examined her. If Mrs. Foster told you all these things, do you have any emails or text messages documenting these conversations? No, we talked in person. Did you ever mention these conversations to anyone else? Any witnesses who can confirm Mrs. Foster said these things? No, it was private conversations between us. How convenient. So we only have your word that these conversations ever happened. I'm telling the truth. You're telling us that a woman who scored in the 98th percentile on cognitive testing, who has perfect memory, somehow forgot that she verbally agreed to give you her house. She's old. Sometimes old people forget. Mrs. Foster is 67 years old and in perfect mental health. The only person lying here is you. The prosecutor showed Sienna a photo of the fake driver's license that had been used at the UPS store. This fake ID has your photo on it with the name Margaret Foster. How do you explain that? I've never seen that before. The notary identified you as the woman who came in on August 15th. She picked you out of a photo lineup. Are you saying she's lying? She must be mistaken. She was very certain, said you were memorable because you were well-dressed and confident. That's you, isn't it? Sienna had no good answer. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. They came back with their verdict. Guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing was 2 weeks later. I gave my victim impact statement. Standing in front of the judge, and the packed courtroom, Your Honor, Sienna Foster tried to steal my home. The home I've lived in for 30 years. The home my late husband and I bought together, where we raised our son, where I've built my life. She forged my signature on legal documents. She obtained fake identification with my name and her photo. She went to a notary and committed fraud. She filed false documents with the county clerk. And when I confronted her about it, she called me senile and told me I had 2 weeks to get out of my own house. She tried to make me homeless so she could pay off her credit card debt. I'm asking for the maximum sentence. Not because I want revenge, but because stealing someone's home is one of the cruelest things you can do to an elderly person. This house is all I have. Without it, I would have nowhere to go. Sienna didn't care about that. She only cared about getting money to fund her expensive lifestyle. Sienna's lawyer asked for leniency, arguing that she was a young mother with a daughter who needed her. The judge was unmoved. Judge Patricia Anderson was a black woman in her early 60s with zero tolerance for elder abuse. Miss Foster, you committed a calculated, premeditated fraud against your elderly mother-in-law. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This was systematic criminal activity that you planned for months. You researched how to commit this fraud. You obtained fake identification. You practiced forging your mother-in-law's signature. You went to a notary and lied. You filed false documents with the county. You tried to steal a house worth $380,000 from a 67-year-old widow. And when you were caught, you tried to have her declared mentally incompetent so you could steal from her legally. The judge looked at Sienna with disgust. On the charge of identity theft, 5 years in state prison. On forgery, 5 years to run consecutively. On elder abuse, 7 years consecutive. On fraud, 3 years consecutive. Total sentence, 20 years in the Georgia Department of Corrections. Sienna started crying, begging for mercy. But Judge Anderson was finished. You showed no mercy to Margaret Foster when you tried to take her home. You'll receive none from this court. Bailiff, remove her. Devon filed for divorce the day after sentencing. He came to my house to tell me in person. It was the first time I'd seen him since the trial ended. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 6 months. His hair was graying at the temples. His face was drawn, and he'd lost weight. Mom, I'm filing for divorce. I should have done it months ago. We sat in my living room, the same living room Sienna had tried to steal. I'm sorry it came to this. I said, I'm the one who should be sorry. I should have questioned her. Should have talked to you directly about the deed transfer. Should have seen through her lies. Why didn't you? He was quiet for a long moment. Because I wanted to believe her. Because our financial situation was so bad. And I was drowning, and the idea that you were giving us this house felt like a lifeline. I didn't think about whether it made sense. Didn't think about why you would give away your home while you were still living in it. I just wanted it to be true. So you're divorcing her? Yes. I can't be married to someone who would do that to you. To anyone. What about your daughter? I'm getting full custody. Sienna's in prison for the next 20 years. By the time she gets out, our daughter will be an adult. How is she handling all this? Not well. She's 12 years old and her mother is in prison for trying to steal from her grandmother. It's a lot to process. We sat in silence for a while. Can you forgive me? Devon asked quietly. For what? For not standing up to her, for sitting in the car while she screamed at you, for believing her lies, for accepting a house I knew deep down you wouldn't give away. You didn't forge anything, Devon. You didn't commit fraud. But I didn't stop her, and I benefited from what she did. You were manipulated too. She lied to both of us. That doesn't make it okay. No, it doesn't. But I know you didn't do this to hurt me. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I didn't show it better. I love you too. And we're going to get through this. Raymond helped me put protections in place to prevent this from ever happening again. We filed a deed fraud alert with the Fulton County Clerk's office. Now if anyone tries to file any documents affecting my property, the clerk's office is required to contact me directly for verification before recording anything. I got title insurance that specifically covers fraud. If someone manages to steal my property through forgery again, the insurance company will cover my legal costs to recover it. I updated my will with very specific language. The house goes to Devon only upon my death, never before, and it goes into a revocable trust that I control while I'm alive, so it can bypass probate without Devon needing to take ownership early. I changed all my locks. Sienna had keys to my house from when she'd visited over the years. Now those keys don't work. I installed security cameras covering every entrance to my property. If someone tries to break in or access my house without permission, I'll have video evidence. Raymond also introduced me to a property deed monitoring service. They alert me immediately if my property deed is changed in any way. Cost is $15 a month. I put credit freezes on all 3 credit bureaus, making it much harder for someone to use my identity to open accounts or take out loans. And I started checking my property deed online every month, just to make sure no one has filed fraudulent documents. Raymond assured me these measures would make it nearly impossible for anyone to steal my property through fraud again. 2 years after Sienna's conviction, I found myself standing in front of 40 elderly people at a senior center in downtown Atlanta. I'd been invited to speak about property deed fraud and how to protect yourself from family members who might try to steal your home. I told them my story. About Sienna showing up in my garden telling me my house was hers now, waving forged papers in my face. About discovering the fraudulent deed transfer. About the investigation and the trial. About Sienna being sentenced to 20 years in prison. Property deed fraud is one of the fastest growing crimes against elderly people. I told them, and 60% of cases involve family members. The people you trust most are often the ones who steal from you. I taught them the warning signs. If a family member is constantly asking about your property value, that's a red flag. If they're pressuring you to transfer your house to them to avoid probate or to make things easier, be suspicious. If they claim you're getting forgetful or incompetent and you know you're not, they might be setting up a narrative to justify stealing from you. And if they bring you documents to sign without giving you time to read them or have a lawyer review them, don't sign. I explained the protections people could put in place. File a deed fraud alert with your county clerk. It's free and it requires the clerk to contact you before recording any documents affecting your property. Get title insurance that covers fraud. Check your property deed regularly online to make sure no one has filed fraudulent transfers. Never sign over your property while you're still living in it unless you have a very specific reason and you've consulted with your own attorney first. And if someone tries to steal your property through fraud, report it immediately. Don't wait. The faster you act, the easier it is to stop them. After my talk, several people came up with their own stories. An elderly man told me his nephew had been pressuring him to sign over his house to avoid estate taxes. The man had almost done it before a friend warned him it was a scam. An elderly woman said her daughter-in-law had been asking for copies of her deed, claiming she needed it for your records. The woman had refused and now understood why. I gave them all Raymond's business card and told them to consult an attorney before signing anything. If my story saved even one person from what I went through, it was worth sharing. Today, 2 years after the fraud, I'm still living in my house. The same house Gerald and I bought 30 years ago. The same house where we raised Devon. The same house I plan to die in. My garden is thriving. The roses Gerald planted are in full bloom. I water them every morning, the same way I was watering them when Sienna showed up to tell me she'd stolen my home. Devon and I have slowly rebuilt our relationship. He comes by for dinner once a week with my granddaughter. She's 14 now, dealing with the fact that her mother is in prison. We don't talk about Sienna much. What's there to say? She made her choices and now she's living with the consequences. Devon sold their house, couldn't afford the mortgage without Sienna's stolen money propping up their finances. He and my granddaughter live in a modest apartment now. He's working 2 jobs to pay off the debt Sienna accumulated. He's learned to live within his means. Learned that you can't steal your way to financial security. I'm at peace now. The legal battles are over. The deed is back in my name, with protections in place to prevent future fraud. I've become an advocate for elderly property rights, speaking at senior centers and working with legislators to strengthen laws against deed fraud. And I've learned that you can't trust everyone, even family. That love doesn't mean blind faith. That protecting yourself isn't paranoia, it's wisdom. I'm standing in my garden on a Saturday morning, watering my roses when Devon pulls into the driveway. He's early for our weekly dinner. He gets out of the car with my granddaughter. Mom, the garden looks beautiful. Thank you. It's been a good year for the roses. My granddaughter runs over. Grandma, can I help water? Of course, sweetheart. I hand her the hose and watch her carefully water the flower beds. The same way I've taught her. This is my home, my garden, my peace. Sienna tried to take it from me, tried to make me homeless so she could pay her credit card bills. But I fought back. I reported her. I testified against her. I made sure she faced consequences. And now I'm here, in my garden, with my family around me, living in the home I built with my husband 3 decades ago. I learned 3 things from what happened that might save someone else from property deed fraud. First, I learned the warning signs that a family member is planning to steal your property and why you can't ignore red flags just because they come from someone you love. The signs were there for months before Sienna committed the fraud. She was constantly asking about my house's value. Every time she visited, she'd comment on how much space I had, how I should downsize, how the house was worth so much just sitting here. She'd pressure me to think about estate planning and making things easier for Devon. She tried to get me to sign a power of attorney 6 months before she forged the deed. When I refused, she started telling people I was getting forgetful, building a narrative that I couldn't manage my own affairs. These are classic tactics used by family members planning to steal property, creating urgency around estate planning, claiming you're declining mentally, pressuring you to transfer property to avoid probate or to make things easier. According to the National Council on Aging, 60% of property deed fraud cases involve family members. It's not strangers you need to fear. It's the people closest to you who know your financial situation and see your property as their inheritance. If a family member is constantly asking about your property value, that's a warning sign. If they're pressuring you to transfer property while you're still living in it, ask yourself why. What's their motivation? Are they in financial trouble? If they claim you need to transfer property to avoid estate taxes or to skip probate, talk to your own attorney first. Most of the time these claims are false and designed to manipulate you into giving away your assets. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't dismiss your own concerns just because the person is family. Second, I learned the legal protections available to property owners, and why understanding your rights can save your home. I didn't know this before it happened to me, but property deed transfers require specific legal elements to be valid. A forged signature isn't just wrong. It makes the entire deed transfer void. When I discovered the fraudulent deed, I acted immediately. I hired an attorney, filed a police report, and got a forensic document examiner to prove the signature was forged. The notary's testimony was crucial. Lisa Chen identified Sienna as the woman who came in with fake ID. That proved Sienna had committed identity theft, not just forgery. The handwriting analysis was definitive. Dr. Hughes showed exactly how the forged signature differed from my real signature, providing scientific proof of fraud, and the court moved quickly to void the fraudulent deed once we presented this evidence. Within weeks, my property was restored to my name. But if I'd waited, if I'd hesitated or hoped it would resolve itself, Sienna could have sold my house before I stopped her. Speed matters in these cases. Legal protections exist for property owners. You can file a deed fraud alert with your county clerk for free. Any future deed changes require direct verification with you. You can get title insurance that specifically covers fraud and forgery. You can monitor your property deed online through your county clerk's website. Most counties have searchable databases. Forensic handwriting analysis can prove a signature is forged. Document examiners are experts at detecting forgeries, and the criminal justice system takes property fraud seriously. Sienna got 20 years in prison because stealing someone's home is a serious crime. Know your rights. Know the protections available, and use them before fraud happens, not after. Third, I learned how to safeguard your property from family fraud, and why prevention is easier than recovery. After Sienna was convicted, Raymond helped me put multiple protections in place. The deed fraud alert means I get contacted before any deed changes are recorded. No one can file fraudulent documents without me knowing immediately. The title insurance means, if someone does manage to steal my property through fraud, my legal costs to recover it are covered. The security cameras mean I have evidence if someone tries to access my house without permission. The property monitoring service alerts me if my deed is changed. I don't have to remember to check, they check for me automatically. And the credit freezes make it much harder for someone to use my identity for fraud. But the most important protection is being vigilant about what you sign. Never sign documents without reading them completely. Never sign something just because a family member tells you it's routine or necessary. If someone brings you legal documents to sign, take them to your own attorney for review. Don't sign the same day. Take time to understand what you're agreeing to. Never give anyone power of attorney unless you truly need it and you trust that person absolutely. And even then, make sure your attorney prepares the documents with proper safeguards. Don't transfer your property to family members while you're still living in it unless you have a very specific legal reason and you've consulted with an attorney you chose yourself. And maintain relationships with multiple people. Don't let one family member be your only contact with the outside world. Isolation makes fraud easier. If you or someone you love is facing property deed fraud, comprehensive resources including elder law attorneys, title companies, and fraud protection services are in the description below. Choose vigilance over blind trust. Choose verification over taking someone's word. Choose protecting your assets over avoiding family conflict. Because I'm standing here today in my home only because I acted immediately when I discovered the fraud. Because I hired Raymond Pierce and followed his advice. Because I reported Sienna to the police instead of hoping she'd make it right. She thought I was a senile old bat who wouldn't fight back. She thought she could steal my home and I'd be too confused or intimidated to stop her. She was wrong. And she's spending the next 20 years in prison learning exactly how wrong she was. I'm Margaret Foster. I'm 69 years old, and I'm still living in my house, watering my garden exactly where I belong. Thank you for listening. If this saves even one person from property deed fraud, then what I went through meant something.